I'm Kevin, aka Neon Nazgul from the Operation Bug Podcast, a proud member of the Gonna Geek Network, just like the show you're listening to now. The opinions expressed are those of each individual host. Check out all the other podcasts at GonnaGeekNetwork.com and get ready, because geekiness begins in 3, 2, 1.
You are listening to the Starling Tribune, a podcast dedicated to the Arrow TV show.
I am the Green Arrow.
This podcast is not produced or maintained by the CW, Warner Brothers Television, CTV, or DC Comics. All characters, situations, and stories are the properties of Time Warner. I am the Oracle, and this is your Tribune.
Welcome back to Earth 2's favorite newspaper. We call it the Starling Tribune. I am the chief editor tonight. My name is SP, and your other award-winning reporters for this special episode number 206 of the Starling Tribune are Chris.
This says bosom far too many times to be a manifesto.
Bosom. I could say that over and over. Bosom. Bosom. All right, enough of that. And Michelle.
Just because I'm an artificial intelligence doesn't mean I don't exist.
Amy Pemberton. Oh, so good to see her. This podcast is recorded on Thursday, August 2nd, 2018, live via www.geeks.live.
That's right, and this evening we'll be discussing Legends of Tomorrow, as well as news, interviews, articles, and announcements that have dropped in the past week that could, and very well will, impact the greater DC television universe. This includes shows like Legends, The Flash, Arrow, Vixen, Constantine, The Ray, who knows what else, anything they come up with. They're always adding stuff.
If you're new to the show, thank you for searching us out on the internet and joining us. After the show, you can check out our content at GonnaGeek.com, where you can also find other geeky videos, podcasts, and articles.
Thanks, guys. Michelle, why don't you go ahead and start us off and break down what we're going to talk about tonight?
Sure thing. This episode is called Here I Go Again. It's Legends of Tomorrow, Season 3, Episode 11, and originally aired Monday, February 19, 2018. It's directed by Ben Hernandez-Bray. Credits include 1 Queen of the South, 2 Arrow, 2 Legends, 1 Supergirl, and 1 Lucifer. Written by Ray Ucharnachit. Credits include 1 Supergirl, 10 Legends, 1 Flash, 2 Persons of Interest, and Morgan Faust. Credits include 3 episodes of Legends.
Now, this week in February of 2017, or 2018, actually, when this episode aired, there was only one CW DC show. That's because it was the Olympics, but I think we got the best of the bunch because Legends of Tomorrow had their 11th episode of the 3rd season. Here I Go Again, as Michelle just described, to a total rating of 1.40, which I think, given it a Monday in February during the Olympics, was awesome. And I'm just going to go ahead and say it. This was my favorite episode of the season. Yes, even beating out the crossover and the amazing season finale. But we'll get into all of that later. Guys, what do you think? 1.40 during the Olympics? How do you think it did?
I'll take it. I mean, this was catering to people like me who had a semi-passing interest in the Olympics, but would prefer to watch their same TV they were watching before. So when I was like, hey, new Legends, it's one I actually got to watch live, which I very rarely do.
Yeah, I think because of the Olympics, there's no like live plus 7 numbers and such available. I looked, I tried. But at 1.4, yeah, I mean, that's pretty good.
It is indeed. And again, it's a really good episode. I was really stoked to see it again today. So Here I Go Again. Is this a Whitesnake song, Michelle?
I wish. I love that song and the video. So if you're my age, you remember the video on MTV when they played videos with Tawny Katane, you know, and the white dress and the cars and the big hair of the lead singer of Whitesnake. But no, this isn't a Whitesnake thing, but there is a connection to ABBA because the episode begins with the team coming back from, I guess, saving Napoleon from, you know, basically the whole Waterloo situation, and they come back with like ABBA outfits. But no, really, this is Zari going in a loop. Here she goes again and again and again and again. And I have to admit, I really would like to have seen the episode with them singing ABBA, and I guess Mick was in the on the side of Napoleon because he came in with the uniform. I want that episode.
The Lost Legends of Tomorrow episode. The team saves Napoleon from himself. That would be awesome. Yeah, and I think we got the gist of the episode. There was probably a bar fight. You had Nate and Zari, or Nate, excuse me, not Zari, Nathan and Maya getting it on, and you had Ray who could not walk in platform shoes. So I think that's it.
It's true. No, I mean, this worked in what it was. I would love to have seen the whole Napoleon thing, but this was basically a bottle episode, and when you do a show like this that's expensive with special effects, they probably saved a pretty decent coin by not having to go on location anywhere. They just stayed on set for whatever, 7-8 days, whatever their production schedule is, so that probably helped there.
Probably. So Groundhog Day, Star Trek The Next Generation, Cause and Effect. There's many other episodes. The Stargate episode, I forget the name, but I always remember the golf situation where they're trying to hit the golf ball into the Stargate, and the General Hammond yells at O'Neill, and he says, "In the middle of my backswing." You know, I always remember that stuff. So
That's a classic.
it's all these episodes are classic, which is why I really like this. I mean, they mention, oh, we knew we were going to do this sooner or later. Yeah, I'm glad you did, because it's fun. It's easy to write. It's fun, especially if you do it right. And this was Zari getting to know the team. It was awesome. I love this episode. Oh,
Yeah, I'm just going to go straight to why I know why you love this episode, SP, and it's because at the end we learn that this was all Gideon, and we got to see Gideon, and that is exactly why this is your favorite episode.
well, no, I think it's a combination of everything. You do get to see Gideon, and you have a sort of the Doctor's wife vibe going on. And that's an episode of Doctor Who, by the way, where you actually get to meet the TARDIS in the individual person that she is. We learn it's a she. And that is why it's called the Doctor's wife. So Amy Pemberton gets to come alive as Gideon in this, even though it's in, I guess I want to say it's in Zari's mind, but it's not. It's within, her mind is within the Gideon matrix. So really it's vice versa. But you get to see her, and you get to see how devious she is. You get to see how much she really knows and loves the crew. So it's all good. And then, like I said, you get Zari, who's a very likable character after this episode. Not that she was hated before this, but you really liked her, and you really liked how she liked the rest of the team. And we get to know a softer side of Mick that none of us ever saw coming. Mick gets a lot of depth this season, and I love it. And this is just another episode that brings it all forward. So it's awesome. And at the end, Chris, you get your swag on because you get your Wally West.
Yeah, it was fun. Plus we get Rip. I don't know why I said Mick. We get Rip back in the swing of things, which is always kind of nice, because I'll admit I've always been kind of a fan of Arthur Darville's Rip Hunter, even when the character's nuts.
So, Chris, what did you think of what we learned about Mick? Because I know Mick's your favorite.
He is quite the talented author, evidently, but goes to great extremes to not share that with his fellow legends. He writes sci-fi romance, and potentially kind of slutty-sounding romance, it seems like.
On an old-fashioned typewriter, and he actually types one key at a time with his gloves on.
That's because he's thinking things through, you see.
Yeah, no spelling mistakes on an old typewriter like that.
It's true. It's a more old-fashioned kind of way to do things. When you think about Mick, you don't really think like cutting-edge tech or anything like that. So old-fashioned works for Mick in this case. Using the typewriter, even if it's one finger at a time, it kind of works when you think about the character.
And it's 1,000 pages long, so it looks like he's given George R.R. Martin a run for his money.
And since he's on a time ship, we don't have to wait 8 years between books.
That's kind of funny, because we were discussing this in the house just last night or the night before, that we'll never see the last book, the actual last book of the Game of Thrones series, because George R.R. Martin's not going to write it. He's just not. You're going to get the ending on the TV show, and that's the ending you're going to have to live with.
So, do we want to read Mick's book? I want to read Mick's book.
You know, they had the whole Castle TV show, and then Marvel made comics out of the Richard Castle books. So, DC, why don't you do the same here? Take Mick Rory's book and make a comic out of it. I'd love it.
I'd read it as a novel. A comic would be great, but Yeah, did you guys get a feeling that we were talking about Buck Rogers here?
Yeah, I mean, you could have that feel. It had a feel of like all of those different pulpy sci-fi kind of things.
Well, I mean, the main character's name was Buck, so I just immediately went to Buck Rogers.
See, I didn't remember that. I didn't even catch it. Good call.
Hmm?
Good call.
Told you I liked the episode.
That's on me.
Well, one of the things we learn is Sarah, first off, how she feels about Zari, how she is like, oh, I'm being the bad mom. I don't like that role. I want her to know how much I appreciate her, but I'm just trying to get through that thick skull. And then we also learn that she is having some private one-on-one conversations with Ava. It's so cute.
It's just another great reason to like the episode, because you see the softer side of Sarah as well. Not exactly softer, but you see her flirting back and forth, and you see her really having not just a ooh googly eye I like you conversation, but they actually talk about meaningful things, and they talk about Zari, and you like Sarah even more because you know she likes Zari and she's trying to help Zari become a better person and a better team member, and she needs Zari too. So as a captain, if we were to rate Sarah as a captain this episode, you might want to take a notch down off of her just because she comes in so hot and angry at the beginning. But other than that, she executes great. And once she finally understands what's going on, she's like, okay, let's do this. We got 24 minutes. Let's save the ship.
So that's not really Sarah. High. It's computer program Sarah.
Oh.
Yeah.
See, this is the twist we have. The Ava and Sarah moment is great. Did Gideon take inspiration from real life to create that moment? Or did Gideon create it herself? That we don't know. So the plot development you get on people outside of Zari in this episode, you kind of have to pause and go, wait a second. Is this just from the simulation? Or did it come from real life somehow? So I was having that same thought as you. And halfway through as you were describing, I was like, but that's not the real Sarah.
Gideon says that she extrapolated from what she knows. So I'm sure Gideon is aware of the conversation that Sarah is having with Ava. And she knows about Mick's novel. I mean, she has eyes and ears everywhere on the ship. She is the ship. Now, is everything probably word exact? No. But Zari at the end, tells Sarah, go after Ava. Tells Nate and Amaya, work on your stuff and stop having sex on missions. Tells Mick to fix the ending of the book. And, gets Ray to tell Sarah the truth about what Constantine said. So I think Gideon's probably like 95% right.
I think she's more than 95% right. I think she's closer to 98 or 99%, but that's just my personal biased opinion.
We learned Mick and Ray do their own laundry.
And that Ray's never seen that shirt before. It's a good color, though. Looks good on Mick.
I remember the first time I was watching this, and I swore there's something about the laundry. There's going to be something that blows up the ship that's about the laundry. It's about the laundry. It's got to be, because Mick is doing laundry, and Mick never does laundry. It's got to be Mick. And it wasn't. Oh, well.
I would figure on a time ship, though, they could have more than one washer and dryer, so they don't have to compete as much for it. Though
they only have one bathroom, remember?
That is true.
Ship is only meant for one person.
But there is pretty much space in that. There's a bunch of space in that laundry room. You just need to run a couple more hookups and you're good. I can hook them up with a general contractor. That's no problem. I got a guy.
You got a guy. Chris knows a guy.
I know a guy. He'll do it. The stuff might fall off the back of a truck before it gets to you, so you get a discount. But he'll take care of you.
So you're talking about a guy from Queens, right?
Yeah, we could go with that.
Okay.
I don't want to attach labels to my guy here.
What did we think about Zari's fun montage? My favorite was when she would dress up in everybody's costumes and then she was trying the heat gun and all that type of stuff. That was my favorite. Chris, do you have any favorite part of her fun montage?
The whole thing is fun, and this is why this episode shines, because it's lighthearted even though there's consequences to things. But I really like the one at the end where it's Ray and Mick in the laundry room and Zari's just in the background with the cue cards. Leafing through them, repeating everything that they're about to say. That was fun to me.
Yeah, it wasn't in the montage, but it was always funny when they got to the end and she'd be like, oh, kill me now. And then boom. And she's like, okay, right on cue or something like that. That was always fun. But yeah, the cue cards were pretty cool too. I liked when she learns to play the violin. And I don't know if this was meant to be an homage to Star Trek The Inner Light, or maybe Groundhog Day, where Bill Murray learns to play the piano during the Groundhog Day movie. But it's great that she plays the violin at a professional level. You hear it at the end. Now, I don't know if the actor actually knows how to play the violin or not, but it sounded really good at the end. And instead of the normal TV show type montage music at the end, which they've been closing out a couple of their episodes of, you get that haunting violin. And it's just a really cool way to end the episode. Hats off to them for throwing that little tidbit in there.
Well, we learned Sarah's angry at Zari because Zari is running a simulation without Sarah's knowledge on Gideon. And the premise is Sarah comes, Gideon is malfunctioning. She tells Zari to fix the ship, and Zari gets the stuff on her. And then Zari thinks the ship blows up when actually it's Gideon trying to get Zari to learn to get along with the legends because Zari's simulation actually works. And Gideon learns that the only way Zari can save her brother is with the legends' help. It's like that is the only possible way. And I thought that was a really good explanation.
It is, but it's still a super violation. I mean, I decide I know better than you, so I'm going to teach you by forcing you to go through all of this. So while the intent is good, at the same time, you're kind of like, this is uncomfortable.
Oh, really? I just absolutely loved it. I mean, they're talking about finding loopholes that make everything better, like the Helen of Troy to Themyscira a couple of weeks ago. You know, that was pretty cool.
But one-offs do. When you combine it all together, it's a
Sarah
slippery slope.
Sarah at the end basically says, well, you're not dealing with my past. So, you know, going back and saving my sister would be one thing, but you're talking about something in my future. So I'm okay with that. So from Sarah's point of view, it's okay. From Zari's point of view, it's still meddling with the future. However, if they change things, remember the future that Zari is from is not necessarily the future that's meant to be. So if they change things and they change 2042 for the better and perhaps save Zari's brother. So I think that's ultimately where we kind of go near the end of the season. This is never resolved. I mean, spoiler alert, this particular standpoint of does Zari save her brother is not solved by the end of the season. So this could be something that leaks over into the following season as well, or this could just be a one-off forget what happened episode. I hope they don't.
I think it's more to just establish that that's still a thing that's in play. I think it'll come up in next season, but there was too much of a focus this season on Amaya, her family, Zambezi, all of those things. They couldn't really continue down this thread because, spoiler alert, we know that the plot threads surrounding Amaya and her family is what kind of takes up a lot in the back half of this. So it would be really tough to have two threads going on like this that's about, we have to deal with my family from the future so we don't screw everything up.
Well, yeah, Zari is family from the future, right? She's several generations removed, right?
I don't believe she was related to Amaya, although I could be wrong.
No, she's not.
Oh, okay.
No, she's not related to Maya. I think what Gideon did, considering Zari did not have permission from the captain to run the simulation, and Gideon was not happy that the simulation was being forced onto her programming. I think what Gideon did was justifiable, especially since she thought it was funny to put Gary into the trash compactor.
I mean, that is funny. Let's be honest here. That's pretty dang funny.
Why did you want to do that? Because I thought it would be funny. Oh, poor Gary. Of course, Gary still is a fan favorite, even though he was hidden in the trash compactor.
We love you, Gary.
And the simulation really doesn't end. We don't find out that it's Gideon until Zari, they finally find the bomb and Mick destroys the time thing from Gary. And Zari is ready to sacrifice herself for everyone. Which that was dark. I was not expecting that type of a moment. Were either of you?
No, I was not. And I remember when I watched it live and went, well, there's got to be some way they're going to get out of this. How are they going to do it? and I did not expect that it was going to be Gideon was running a program that was putting Zari through all these scenarios. So it was a moment there where I went, holy crap.
Yeah, it was pretty dark, and I didn't know exactly where they were going to go with it. I knew they weren't going to blow up the ship because that's just not the way it's going to go, but I didn't know if she was going to survive or not. And I didn't know how they were going to get out of it. Of course, you hear the clapping once the explosion didn't happen, and that's when Amy Pemberton shows up, and you're like, oh, it's Gideon. Oh, it's so cool to have Gideon around. And you kind of forget a little bit if as you're watching of the gravity of the situation that they had just experienced, but you also don't get Zari having those heartfelt moments to her crewmates. Now, she does a little bit of that later, but the impact of the moment at hand is kind of lost during it.
True. I thought it was interesting that Gideon wasn't going to back up her story in the med bay, and she's like, whoa, Gideon, that's harsh. But she, at first Ray and Sarah were like, oh, maybe too much sedative. And Zari's like, okay, I'll prove it. Ray tells Sarah what Constantine, told. And he tells her, says, well, Sarah, Constantine said if Mollis takes you over and things get out of hand, I'm supposed to use this anti-magic gun on you. And Sarah's like, good.
Yeah, she's practical.
And bring your whole team with you because you're going to need them.
Yeah. I enjoyed this episode a lot as well. SP, is there anything else you want to talk about it?
The flashy thingy to forget about sex. So Mick, that would be cool, right? You get a song stuck in your head, Michelle. I know there's a particular song that you can get stuck in your head. I'm not even going to mention it, but wouldn't a flashy thingy be good? Dial it back, like, oh, I first heard that song, got it in my head 5 minutes ago, just dial it back 5 minutes ago, boom, and then you wouldn't have to deal with it anymore. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, but I don't remember anything else from those 5 minutes, and that concerns me.
Well, if the bulk of that 5 minutes is how to forget the song, then I'm okay with it.
Yeah, but it'd be a moment of like, oh no, where's my cell phone now? Because I probably set it down somewhere in those 5 minutes.
That's why you need to get yourself one of those tiles, so to be on your key, and so you could find your keys and just press the button on the tile, and then your phone would ring, and you know where your phone was.
Then you'd have to find your keys.
Well, assuming you can find one or the other.
Oh, okay.
So I like the comedic concept of blanking away the memory from a practical standpoint. One of the things that scares me most is forgetting stuff that I feel like I should know. So I feel like if I wipe my memory, even of my own volition, I don't think I would. It freaks me out.
That's fair, because one of the big problems I have with the way that the series Chuck ended was because there was a memory issue. And it wasn't that the memory was gone, but what the memory represented that I have an issue with. So yeah, I get where you're coming from.
Chris, any final thoughts?
I want to read Mick's book, guys. Make it happen, CW. Give us a book. Maybe give him a Twitter account that you can just release excerpts of the book out on. It'd go viral and people would love it. And put Bebo in.
Bebo meets Buck.
Bebo loves Buck.
Would be awesome.
That would be awesome. Great. Now I want that to happen. I want to read Mick's book, and then there has to be a sequel where when Bebo meets Buck.
I like it. You guys hearing this in the Legends Tomorrow writing room? You can have that one for free.
Exactly. Well, next time we're going to talk about The Curse of the Earth Totem. It's season 3, episode 12. It aired Monday, February 26, 2018. While Sarah takes some private time, the Legends follow a lead on the whereabouts of the Earth Totem and find themselves in 1717 on the hunt for Blackbeard's treasure. It is directed by Chris Tamaro and was written by Grain Godfrey and Ubad Muhammad.
And I'll be looking forward to that. In the meantime, we're going to transition to our next segment, and I'm going to say live from the Starling Tribune main news desk on floor 52 of the Starling Tribune Tower. It's the weekly news roundup with award-winning chief news anchor Michelle Ely. And now, Michelle Ely. And now I'm going to play the bump. And now, Michelle Ely.
Thanks, SP. First up, we have some Flash news. Chris, do you have something about the trailer?
Yes, so the trailer came out at San Diego Comic-Con. We didn't have a chance to talk about it last week, so we'll talk about it a little bit now. The trailer for Season 5 begins by recapping the events from the Season 4 finale, where Nora helped Barry stop a satellite from crashing into Central City, and then to her surprise identity reveal. Next, we learn Nora's superhero name is XS, which is a nickname Barry gave her as a kid. Somehow, Nora has gotten herself stuck in the present day, and Barry is concerned that she could, quote, Marty McFly herself out of existence, end quote. I love that statement. That is why I wanted this news piece, just because Marty McFly yourself out of existence, just a great phrase.
She going to play the guitar?
Probably, who knows? It could be an homage.
I'm really excited to see Nora next season. This will be the reason that I watch The Flash.
SP, you have offspring. So what would it be like if you met your adult kid before you had your kid?
Before I had the kid? Wow, yeah, because that's where they're at. It would be very weird because I would worry about the causality of actually making the kid to begin with. So if I hadn't, created the kid, had the birth, then that would be my main concern.
It's okay. We got a flashy thing to take care of that for you, so you can forget all about meeting them in the present day.
Thank you very much. That would work great. Other than that, I would be very interested to see them as an adult, to see what kind of a parent that I actually was, knowing that you do your best. Okay, as a parent, you're never ready for anything. You might think you're ready. You're never ready for the whole shebang. So you're always going to make mistakes. You're always going to screw up along the way. And there's nothing that you can do. So you just live through that. So I wouldn't want to change what I did, but I just kind of want to see the results, because it's kind of a fast forward with life, and then you can go back and relive it and have fun.
Cool. Well, I have a lot of Supergirl casting news. First, Supergirl adds a fan favorite Legionnaire as TV's first transgender superhero. So the CW Supergirl has cast transgender activist Nicole Maines as television's first trans superhero, in a role that appears to introduce another member of DC's Legion of Superheroes to the drama. Maines will play Nia Nall, a new addition to the Catco reporting team, described as a soulful young transgender woman with a fierce drive to protect others. For Season 4 story arc, we'll see her fulfill her destiny as Dreamer.
Yeah, the whole Catco thing last season, I hope they reinvigorate that, because to me, it's lost any sort of credibility in the series whatsoever.
It's like people are supposed to have jobs there, but they never work there.
Including the guy who runs the place.
He's got plenty of time to go be vigilanteing instead of, running a multi-million, probably billion-dollar company.
Yeah, that was my big issue of him being Guardian. It's like, just have him be a boss. It's awesome. The CW Supergirl will borrow again from the Man of Steel sprawling supporting cast to introduce DC anti-hero villain Manchester Black in Season 4. David Ajala, Doctor Who The Dark Knight, has been cast in a recurring role as, quote, the type of guy who brings a knife to a gunfight and still walks away the winner. With a dark past, he easily deflects the brutality of his mission with his charm and sense of humor. Interesting.
I'll take it.
And in wonderful Supergirl political news, first, returning as President Marsden is going to be Linda Carter.
Sweet.
And President Marsden has a vice president. It's Vice President Baker, and he's going to be played by the one and only Brent Spiner from Star Trek The Next Generation.
Yes! Sorry, I was having a Star Trek Generation
I know. It's you think Data these days, and that's what you think. Either that or him in his room petting his cat, one of the two. And I prefer the yes.
I can't wait. Vice President Baker is described as an unlikely leader who steps up in a big way when his country needs him most.
This is good because if I remember correctly, the last vice president was not so great. Maybe that was just a bureaucrat in the Men in Black, but
yeah.
I don't remember.
Chris, you have a final piece of Supergirl news.
Yes, so in the final bit of Supergirl news, they're bringing another character from the Superman mythos into Supergirl. The CW Supergirl is set to welcome a new villainous player to National City. The DC villain Mercy Graves is coming on board the series, and she won't be coming alone. She'll be bringing her brother Otis with her. Rona Mitra has been cast as the recurring role of Mercy Graves. On Supergirl, Mercy will be, quote, stepping out of the Luthor shadow and running her own show, end quote, according to the character description. With her biting wit and lethal brawn, Mercy steadily becomes a key figure in National City's growing human first movement. So if you've read the Superman comics or you've watched the cartoon from the early 90s, Mercy was Lex Luthor's bodyguard, for lack of a better term, that was always with him, that was highly trained martial artist, smart in her own regard, but utterly dedicated to Lex Luthor and Luthor's ideas. So it'll be interesting to see how that translates over here, because I believe in the Supergirl world, Luthor is in jail.
Yes.
He is. And Superman is still around. Matter of fact, they did reference him in the finale. They didn't show him, but it was a news report saying that he was helping Madagascar weather the same crisis, I think it was, but it was in Madagascar and not National City. So it is nice to have those connections to the main universe, and we'll see if we get any sort of more Luthor family, whether it's Lex or somebody else. I mean, we've already got the mom and the sister, so we'll see who else comes to light here.
Yeah, Mercy's got to me, it's unhealthy devotion to Lex Luthor.
Yes, that's a fair statement.
Would be interesting to see if this is Luthor's actual Mercy and she's acting on his behalf when he's in prison. Or maybe she's connected to the mom who is connected to Cadmus, because it seems as though the human first movement is going to take a big role in next year's Supergirl. Be interesting to watch.
Very much so.
And final news, have some news about Constantine, City of Demons. This is the animated series that was on CW Seed. And if you've watched it like me, and it's 30 minutes, and at the end, it's like it ends on this huge cliffhanger. Like we find out the demon and who's got Chaz's daughter Trish and all that type of stuff, but then it's just end. And it's like, what's going to happen? Well, we are going to get a action-packed movie version of City of Demons. So produced by Warner Brothers Animation, Blue Ribbon Content, and DC Entertainment, the action-packed movie will be distributed by Warner Brothers Home Entertainment starting October 9th, 2018 on Ultra High HD Blu-ray Combo Pack, and digital. The movie is about John Constantine setting out to cure Chaz's daughter Trish from a mysterious supernatural coma. With the help of the mysterious nightmare nurse, the influential queen of angels, a brutal Aztec god, the pair just might have a chance of outsmarting the demon Baru to save Trish's soul. So I cannot wait for this to come out, because I watched it and I loved it. And it's like, what's going to happen next? We get to find out.
I know you're very interested in the Constantine, so I hope you do find out what's coming next.
Well, I will let you know if it's worth the watch, because yes, I'll be getting it because it's me and Constantine.
Sounds good.
So that is all for the news. Now, Chris, we are part of a larger podcast network, aren't we?
That's right, Michelle. We are part of the Gonna Geek Network that has 25 plus different shows on it that cover a variety of different topics. Some, like us, we focus on just the Arrow universe. Normally, Arrow expand out to Legends of Tomorrow on occasion. You've got other shows that focus on video games, tabletop gaming. There's all sorts of things there. And guys, I can't tell you about every show on the network. I wish I could, but it'd be a podcast in and of itself. But what I can do is give you a taste of one other show on the network and be like, hey, this is really good. You should go check that out. So we're going to talk about one of our Game Life Balance shows, because we have two. This is the Australian edition, episode 64, entitled The Nintendo 64 Special. For episode 64, we decided to honor the hallowed Nintendo 64 video game console from the late 1990s. Does the console still hold up today? Well, of course not. But a better question is, was it ever really that great to begin with? We sat down and played a dozen or so N64 games before recording this, and we have thoughts. Potentially controversial thoughts. And I do know that AC had tweeted a picture of himself with Superman 64, which is arguably one of the worst games out there. And I cannot wait to hear him, how'd he put it, savage Superman 64 on the podcast or something to that effect. This one sounds like a bunch of fun. So guys, go check out Game Life Balance Australia and any of the other shows on the Gonna Geek Network by heading on over to GonnaGeek.com and clicking on the network button, and you'll see everything there. However, looking at the time, it is time for us to start wrapping things up. So a big thank you to everyone who was participating in the chat room live this evening over on Geeks.live, but also a thank you to everyone who catches the video replays of the show over on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/GonnaGeek, or replays the audio version from StarlingTribune.com.
If you happen to have an Amazon personal assistant device, you can always enable our podcast as a skill. Say the activation word and say enable Starling Tribune, and you will have your very own Starling Tribune skill on your Amazon device. And remember, you can always catch us live as we record at www.geeks.live at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific, now on Thursdays.
We would love to hear from you. We are the Starling Tribune on Facebook and Instagram, at Starling Tribune on Twitter, and you can call us at 612-888-CAVE. That's 612-888-2283. Well, this brings us to the end of another great episode. Any last words before we sign off? At Stargate Pioneer.
Hashtag Gideon is a perv.
At the Chris Farrell.
Hashtag Mix Bosom Book.
And I am at Michelle Ely, signing off with hashtag Bebo loves Buck. Oracle, I think we're done here.
This was the Starling Tribune. You can leave us feedback at GonnaGeek.com or check out our archive at StarlingTribune.com. Visit GonnaGeek.com for more podcasts. Music by Kevin MacLeod can be found at Incompetech.com. This podcast is not produced or maintained by the CW, Warner Brothers Television, CTV, or DC Comics. All characters, stories, and situations are the property of Time Warner. No infringement is intended. We will see you for the next episode of CW's Arrow.